Welcome to Main Street Mavericks, celebrating conversations with exceptional Main Street businesses who serve friends and neighbors in your community. Here's your host, Joel Helfer.
Hi, this is Joel Helfer, talk show host for Main Street Mavericks Radio. Welcome to another episode. Today we have a very influential guest in the accounting field called the FiscalDoctor. Gary Patterson is a Stanford MBA. He worked for the Big Four. He's known as the FiscalDoctor. He has helped Inc. 500 companies and over 200 companies in manufacturing, technology, service, construction, and distribution, ranging from startups to international Inc. 500 to Fortune 500 companies. Gary is the author of Find Your Blind Spot Before It Finds You and $1 Million Blind Spots. Contact Gary when you need a speaker or consultant on sustainable strategic profit growth while removing risk at www.FiscalDoctor.com. Hi, Gary, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Looking forward to providing some useful information to your listeners.
Oh, this is wonderful. Lots of people don't really understand what their CPA does or how to best select one and how to optimize that crucial relationship. Briefly, Gary, why are you qualified to help people as a CPA?
Well, I mean, you were nice enough to, on the overview, KPMG is a Big Four firm, which is sort of like the gold standard, the larger firm, Stanford MBA. More than that, though, is for 30 years, I've been there to help companies grow. The idea is how do we grow the top line and keep more of the bottom line is what people told me, my mentor Bill and Eileen. They said if you do that, you'll have a whole lot more fun in life. So along the way, I have been every what you'll call C-suite. In other words, the financial officer, the operations officer, the CEO, the president to run it. So I have literally helped select and hire both CFOs and external CPA firms. So been there and done that in a range of industries.
Wow, it seems like you've worked with the people at the highest levels in business. That must have been a lot of fun and very interesting.
Those are, but, whether it's small companies or large, being the president or just the C-suite leader is really, it's hard. The comment is, if you want friends, get a dog. But it's sort of nice if you have someone you can talk to when you don't feel comfortable running ideas by your own people. And along the way, I was fortunate enough, or whichever, or got to change all of those functional areas. Didn't intend to along the way. Didn't want to a few times, but you're laughing. You've been there too. I've heard your podcast. You've had a few of those same scars. I mean, the only way to learn how to go forward is to get a few scars and gray hairs along the way. So,
there's no
been
question
there
about it. Experience is the best teacher, and that's what we're here to talk about today. What are some of the most common misconceptions people have about hiring a CPA?
Well, I'm going to give you the three main ones. We can talk more later there with it, just assuming that people are looking at this and saying, help save me from one of those scars or gray hairs. The first one is too many people think that, a CPA is interchangeable, one size fits all. But actually there are just vast differences because people may be better at small companies, large companies. They're good at certain industries. They have a certain style. So we need to help you match up this CFO, CPA person to help you. That's number one. Number two is, unfortunately, and no one's going to tell you this, you, from what you've heard, probably think that CPA is out there scouring the horizon, looking for ways to save you money and help you run your business better. Unfortunately, they used to do that. Now they are held captive to what some people talk about is the regulatory and the GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles gods. They have to fill in a lot of things so they don't get sued, get bad things said about them. You, the client, become secondary to them, And in some cases, even, I've written some articles on this about the idea to watch out because the sheriffs have left town and haven't told you about it. You're thinking that this, CPA, CFO is there to take care of you.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, they used to be, but now there's only so many battles they'll fight. So that's two. And the last one is similar. You also, no doubt, think they're your advocate, that they're there to help you along the way. And unfortunately, they've got to keep the profession happy, GAP, and the government and the IRS, and you're secondary or tertiary, unfortunately.
That's a shame. That being the case, if the CPAs that you intend to hire have all these constraints and almost shackles put on them, how do you go about picking the right one for your company?
Well, sometimes it's a combination. I mean, we can come back to this one is, again, it's a make or buy situation. I'm going to suggest, and a lot of people will, let's get the CPA to do CPA things, and let's get somebody else to help you on items that just show up periodically on these. And to that extent, you've always had that need in the past, make versus buy on this. Find a CPA that fits the price range you want, your industry, the needs like that, and then get somebody you can pull in on an as-needed basis for key issues, maybe to be a resource for your CFO or your controller, things like that. Matter of fact, I've got an article that we can give people. One of the more popular ones I did on e-zine articles, if they go out and look, was called Revealed. What does a controller really do? Most people don't know when their controller or CFO is really doing a good job and what kind of things they should do so they know what they can do internally and what they need that external CPA to do for them.
I know from my businesses, when we hired a CPA, he almost became a member of the family, and we kept him year after year after year, and we didn't change much. So this decision is critical to the success of a business. Why might someone need both a CPA and someone like yourself?
And that is, and I'll tell you, the reason I say, I'll give you one example, and I know some of the companies were there. I was there in my training roots. Most people haven't seen or don't know that a lot of things went away. One of the biggest one was you may have gotten in the past what we used to call a management letter. And what we did as part of the audit, the tax return, the whatever, we were there scouring the horizon for our clients to come up with some suggestions that would help them run their business better and risk to avoid. And we would come back and we had like an executive summary at the front with 3 to 5 key issues. For most companies, that went away 5 to 10 years ago because it became more of a gotcha situation that if they missed something or didn't say it right. So the vast majority of CPAs now do not give that, what I was calling, they're not an advocate. You had an advocate. You had a great CPA. And sometimes I help people get more value out of their CPA relationship than they have. And some of them, unfortunately, they can't cross certain lines. They used to be able to. For you, Joel.
I know, because we used to go visit our CPA. We'd always go to his office, and we sit down, and before we go over the numbers, we just talk about our business and how we could do better, and we'd run by him some ideas we had for everything from promotion to hiring people to working with vendors, and he was more of a business consultant as opposed to strictly an accountant. I guess those days have changed, huh?
Well, if you find the right CPA and you either pay them a little more or it's part of what they do, some people like small and medium-sized business, and some people have gone to more of this external person, sort of like me, who is there and says, CPAs do a great job on audits, tax returns, compliance, and things like that. You need somebody to have, just like that discussion. I want to pick your brain. Who do I hire? Do I change? It's not like you can bring your top 3 or 4 people in and have some of those discussions until you've sort of, tossed it out, talked to somebody a little. It's a lot safer to do that. Everybody right now wants to keep their best people, this human capital initiative. So it's worth preparing a little before you go out and make some big statements or big decisions. The world's gotten more complicated, and it always will. It's not going to get any simpler.
Well, that's the case, and what's even worse now is that communication isn't what it used to be, because before there was basically two ways to do business. Either you picked up the phone or you went to see someone in person. But now with email and the internet and all different types of technology, business seems to become more impersonal, and that makes it a little harder to build relationships. Do you find that to be the case?
It can be. I think that's part of it is, podcasts like this or information. There's a lot of information out there that you might have had to pay $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever in the past. There's a lot of information that's available now. The question on that is, how do you get to that person you're comfortable with? And that was part of this issue. I said, let's understand what it is. And, if I didn't emphasize it enough, you need to find the right fit for you on that CPA. Whether it's questions that I'll offer sometimes or just looking at it, because make or buy would say, let's get someone I'm comfortable with who does a lot of good things for me. They don't need to know enterprise risk management. They don't need to know cyber terrorism checks. They may not need to do M&A or something. Find someone who can bring in these more experienced and, by definition, probably more expensive resources when you need them, and then let them go somewhere else. But it's sort of nice if you can bring the same specialized resource in, just like you kept your CPA for years and years.
Right. Yeah, and that was the case. Let me ask you, all these issues being prevalent today, what do you do that's different from what a normal CPA does?
The biggest one is, I'm closer to what y'all said, is my sole dictate is, how can I help you individually in your business be better, do better? I'm not worrying about the regulatory accounting gods and the goddesses on these things with it, because unfortunately your CPA has to. So the difference is that I partner with them, and sometimes, it's even easier for me to go ask the law firm, the CPA firm. I've had clients who had me do that and say, what are these issues? They'd like to do it. We'll have coffee and let me go back and help your client do some of the things you suggested they do, but they haven't quite done it. That now's the time they're willing to make some changes. So I may be that person who helps communicate and get the information you and your listeners want, and keep the CPAs and the law firms out of regulatory Sarbox hell, as they call it in the trade, with some of the risks that they never had to worry about in the past. They used to be your advocate.
Tell me, you've had 30 years experience working in business with large and small companies. What would you say is the biggest problem that you've ever had to solve for a customer?
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. I usually say, is your issue growth, making more money, or having less risk? The biggest issue I've saved a time or two is I've helped some companies that thought they were high growth companies, and I've gotten in there and almost immediately said, you thought you were in high growth. You've got a huge liquidity problem. You've got an inventory problem. If you look out the pipeline, you aren't going to be here 3 to 6 months unless you go solve some issues. Now, that's tough because we didn't have much time. Much more fun is, having been there twice on Inc. 500 companies, it's a lot more fun to help people grow something, add people, add employees, than it is to help them from basically going bankrupt, going out of business. And a lot of little, small and medium-sized companies don't make it to the third generation as you did. Most don't.
I know. Well, we had a family business, and the reason our business worked is not only did we make it to the third generation, but we had enough working capital and enough cash flow to keep our business running, which I imagine is a big problem not only yesterday but today as well.
And will be tomorrow. I mean, one of the most common, I wrote something when I came to Atlanta, and the article was, it was understanding better how to monitor and see visibility on the next 6 months cash flow. Because if you look at that and see why you made mistakes and see things coming down the tunnel, you've got time to fix it. If you don't do that, it's too easy to buy big iron is what most people I've heard, and whether it's technology or other areas. Big iron is a Learjet. Big iron is a Caterpillar. Big iron could be assembly line equipment, something big, very expensive that you really don't need. You'd be better off outsourcing it rather than spending $500,000, $10 million, whatever dollars, just like you might outsource, and pull in someone to supplement your CPA.
What would you say is the most important benefit that you offer your customers?
Truth, speed, success, not perfection. And if they've ever been stuck, a best-kept secret, or coasting on past success, I'll tell them the things they need to, I'll ask them the questions they need to think about, but their people are afraid to tell them, and they might be afraid to even think about because they don't want to worry about things.
So what you do is a lot more than just the accounting side of it, correct? You actually help business owners and the CFOs and management executives think through decisions on a daily and even a more long-term basis. Is that correct?
It can do either, and I do something we call one key strategic issue for a set time, whether that's a month or a quarter. Because the other thing I have found is, there's an object out there. An awful lot of brilliant entrepreneurs have the shiny object syndrome, meaning they can't focus. 1 or 2 things you get done. 3, 4, 5, not too good. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, nothing gets done. Paralysis by having too many shiny objects.
Yeah, that's a problem today, and it's hard to hone in on what's the most important thing and that's going to move your business forward and make it simple and easy to understand for your employees. That's always been a big problem for owners of companies. What questions people might ask you before they finally selecting you as a consultant or selecting a CPA? What are the most important questions they should be asking?
And I'll do this very quickly on that one, and I'm glad for someone to call me in more detail. You want to get a CPA that knows your industry or area. For instance, there's a lot of difference in a family business and a public company or a private company. The other one is there's a lot of difference between being in construction, manufacturing, software. Second one is just why is that CPA firm more valuable to their clients than the competition? Like why you, why now? Third one is before you have the meeting, when you're thinking about it, what's the quality of the questions that they are willing to ask you and say, I think from what we've seen, we might be able to help you in such an area, be it operations, be it better financing. Have they done a little homework to show they want your business? 4 is what skills do they have that are going to help you as you grow so your business becomes more valuable? And you mentioned it earlier. How do you know the person that you start with is going to be there for some kind of a long run, that you're not going to get sold by the really, really expert partner, and then you're going to be turned over to the junior trainee 2 days later?
No, I know that's really important because having a financial consultant like yourself and a CPA is a critical part of the business, and you want to be able to almost call them up anytime you need their services, not just at the end of the year or every quarter when you have to file your tax returns.
And a lot of people, that's where sometimes I tell people, let's improve the relationship you have with that CPA, because if you've told them 54 times, just do the bare minimum, don't do anything else, don't think about doing anything else, they probably got some ideas that can help you. But about the 52nd time of the 54, when you said, don't do anything extra, I don't want to pay for it, et cetera, they stop thinking, they stop looking. And there's a point where you need to, I sometimes say, you need to take your CPA to lunch and you should pay and just ask them to get that insight you used to get that's no longer available.
Do you find it's important for you or the CPA to actually visit the customer's business? Because I know in a lot of cases, everything is either done over the phone or you go to their office, but it's not too often when the CPA or the financial consultants actually go to the factories or the offices to see what's going on. Do you find that valuable?
I've done it both ways. I'll say it's always valuable. The question becomes an issue of cost and time. I'm in Atlanta, glad to do things with people. If, you're in Florida, that's not that far away. I've helped people in the West Case and Spokane and Anchorage and places, and where it takes a day to get there and a day to get back and a day there. And the question then is, there's a value to do that, but should you space it out over a time period? Because whoever does this, what we sell, you and I sell our time, and something that takes 3 days, to do, I need to make a little money on it, or people like me do, versus, a phone is nice, Skype. It's nice to see people. And as the quality's gotten better, it's amazing the quality that you can get by using a Skype or a video situation for some of these calls. It's never going to be as good as, belly to belly, saying hello at a conference, a trade show or something. So you have to blend it.
No, I understand. And with these new technologies, like we use from time to time, even GoToMeeting, which is possible where you could have a conference call, but it's more than a conference call, or gives you opportunities to talk to people not only all over the United States, but all over the world, which is amazing to me, how the world has changed. But somehow something has been lost, and that's the thing that always gets me, is that personal touch seems to have been lost, where it's just so much more fun, even though we used to do business locally, when you actually get to actually see the person in person, actually meet the person in person, whether it's at a lunch, their office, your office, whatever. I think that's something that's been... And
a larger company clients, you can do that. There's ways to do it. If you want the very short, very brief, strategic trade-off, I just helped somebody in New England. And what we did is, we had a series of, go-to-meetings. They pulled up certain financial information, after I gave them a confidentiality agreement, and we looked at it live. I mean, we did it as we went. And that, if on these things with it, you can really develop some trust there. But you've got to have done it a few times. You may not need 30 years of experience in this supplemental resources, but if someone's only been doing it for 30 days, they may not be as much value to as someone else.
I understand that. I see that one of the things that you mentioned to me is that what you like to do is partner with people to help them reach their goals and dreams. What's one goal or dream that you particularly are proud of that you helped the customer achieve? And
again, I won't be able to. I'll do this one would be there. I did some very specialized work. In essence, they're family businesses. In Alaska, you have what are called Alaskan Native corporations, and it's what it sounds like. The natives, the Inuit, as they call themselves, have been there for 1,000 years. They want to be there another 1,000 years. And I helped a group. We did what we called a business assessment, and it was, this is what you're doing good, this is what you could do better, this is what you better show up, because sooner or later, not if, but when, you're going to have a problem. And by laying out that roadmap with a prioritization for them, I helped one group who's continued to grow. I helped another group who was fortunate enough to face up to some issues they needed to face up to. Wonderful people. Most people don't, when they grew up, didn't want to be a CFO, CPA, may not even want to be a business person, but they're great people and they have great businesses. They need supplemental resources. And you feel good when you help someone like that. I do. And I think everybody else.
I agree with you. I think that's interesting that you've helped people all over the country. I imagine that's made your life very interesting and very worthwhile. Would you say that you would rather do business with small businesses or C-suite large corporations? What do you prefer to do work for?
I'll say small and middle market. The other ones, if you're under about $30 million, you almost need more. There's sort of the idea of a show, or a show, tell, and do. The small companies, there's a certain amount I can tell them and they can do the work, and a certain amount I need to help. The larger ones, the 30 to 300 million, sort of like the ones in Alaska, are more likely to, we want to bring you in with a very specific purpose in mind. That's nice. My forte is not to find the $30 billion company. That just isn't me. It's become too impersonal. 30 to $300 million companies, family business and privately held. There's a lot of value that people like myself can add quickly.
Well, I think that's very important, because for people to know what you do best. And I imagine there's still a lot of companies in that range that are out there, although the way the world is today, it's getting harder and harder and harder to keep growing your sales. There's more and more constraints, regulations, all things, cost increases, labor increases, everything that you can amount to that makes it harder and harder and harder when you open that key every Monday morning to get that payroll paid every Friday.
Well, you've been there and seen the thing. I mean, that's part of why sometimes a supplemental resource like myself is good. And one of the things is, let's get you hooked up with the right CPA firm and law firm that's fit and a good fit for you. Otherwise, you're paying for services you don't need, or you need services that you don't know you need. And it's not a question in most things of if it happens. It's more of a question of when will things happen in a faster-paced world.
How can our listeners benefit best from your type of services and your type of work? What are the things that they can look for as an improvement in your business by what you do?
In terms of who to find someone like me, I'll do it. I think it's almost two parts. It's going to be the similar answers to picking that CPA firm. Have they ever done stuff in your interest industry? Do you think they can help grow, train your people, et cetera? The three key things that I help a lot of people on that people might look for is this prioritization of the top issues, as you and I have talked about a couple of times. I think the other part is what I mentioned. Most people are not willing to ask the hard question. I gave the phrase that says, your sheriff may have left town but didn't tell you. You think people are going to tell you what's going on, but they're more worried about their job, keeping things going. They've got too many other worries. They won't ask you the hard questions because they've seen too many times where Joe or Susan did, and they're in Siberia now on an extended market research tour in February, which is not good. And the other one's got to be a sort of, do you feel that they make an effort to know what you want and why, and it'll push you a little harder to make sure that it's what you need, not just what you want, flavor of the moment. I rambled a little there. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. Do you find that modern technology actually helps or hinders a business? Because I remember in the old days, everything was done by hand, journals and all types of simple accounting functions. Now everything is more done by computer. Do you find that's actually better for businesses or a hindrance?
Well, as somebody who got to do some of those things, I saw some of it. I think you and I both, are happy that we don't do things by hand we used to have to do.
Right.
And again, it's a whole lot more. The employees we have would much better be doing customer-facing things to help improve the client than recording manual journal entries. And in a lot of manufacturing, I saw one the other day, the little whiteboard on the wall that you put little stickies on, and you move stickies between there. There are certain things that always are going to work that are semi-manual, but, there's no way to go back, and B, it is just so much more efficient. People enjoy what they're doing if they're doing productive work and not doing tedious issues, because some of those things are sort of tedious.
It sounds to me, Gary, like you are someone that a business owner definitely would benefit by contacting and getting to know better. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you if they'd like to find out more about how you can help them in their business?
Two things. Phone number is always pick up the phone, 678-319-4739, 678-319-4739. The other one is they might look at, I'll give my website again, the FiscalDoctor.com, www.FiscalDoctor.com. And, if they spend 5 or 10 minutes there, they'll see my picture, and they'll either just say, I like to talk to this guy, or I don't like, whatever. They can get a look and feel, say, I like Gary, I like some of his information. There's a lot of really valuable information there, articles and things. But call me. Let's have a 15-minute conversation and pick one issue that really you'd like to see a way to at least get a path started on. And let's find you a path on one key issue that'll make your life better, top line, keep more of the bottom line, or have more fun.
Well, that's where you came up with the name FiscalDoctor. Maybe right before we go, you could tell me a little bit about how you came up with that name and how it actually benefits your clients.
The name was the issue that I've been every C-suite in every functional area. My absolute strengths are finance, system, strategy. So the issue there was, how do I differentiate and say something? So it's like I have what I call the fiscal clinic. Is just like you need a doctor to check things, and you want the general practitioner who can send you to the specialists. I looked at the logic as, how can I help you check up, diagnose, treat, and well your business so that you personally benefit from that and your company is in tip-top financial and fiscal shape.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, what's one thing or one thought that you would like to leave our audience who's listening to this with, which gives them a good reason to pick up the phone and call you, Gary?
The 15 minutes is free.
Can't beat that. Well, I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for your time. This has been Gary Patterson, Stanford MBA, physical doctor and business consultant extraordinary. And we thank you for listening to another episode of Main Street Mavericks Radio. This is Joel Helfer. Have a nice day.
You've been listening to Main Street Mavericks Radio with Joel Helfer. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit mainstreetmavericks.com.